Alright guys, thanks again for joining us. This is Cat's Pajamas.
And this is Pain User.
And we are back for another set here out of IPL Season 2 qualifiers. Now guys, this is a round of 16 match. The winner of this best of 5 actually does move on to be qualified for IPL Season 2. Down here in the bottom left-hand corner is Zelnaga Caverns. We have our red Terran player, roxkisBratOK. His opponent here in the top right-hand corner is Beastyqt, spawning as our yellow Terran player. We are playing here on Zelnaga Caverns. Again, this is a best of 5, a little bit different from some of the other qualifiers. Subsequent rounds after this will be a best of 3 because that's just to determine seeding for the rest of the tournament.
And we do have two of our Terrans from the Eastern Bloc area. BratOK, one of my favorite Terran players of all time. Love watching his games, love watching his strategies, has a very unique style. Generally has been on top of his game since the beginning of the beta, so I'm really curious to see what he's up to in TVT these days. And Beastyqt has also always been a very strong Terran player. He's been around, he's participated in many tournaments, not so many big successes, doesn't have as big of a name obviously as BratOK, but he's still a monster Terran from the Eastern Bloc in his own right.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been following him for a little while, too. Had the pleasure of casting him one time at a European tournament, but that was a few months ago, I believe, so I'd be curious to see how his play has developed since then. Looks like both players just dropping down their barracks here. Pretty predictable timings. BratOK already going with his gas. We'll see if Beastyqt decides to bypass that, and it looks like he is, in fact, going to do so. So bypassing that for more than likely a 1-Rex fast expand or something along those lines. So Beastyqt bypassing that, sending out his early scout just to see what his opponent is up to. Of course, doesn't want to be caught off guard, bypassing that gas here to start the game.
Interestingly enough, BratOK not sending out a scouting SCV, and I feel like he really could have gotten some valuable scouting information by noticing that there were no geysers. That would have been really important for him, and he would have been able to contour his build based on that. But BratOK only has 2 SCVs on gas right now. I don't know if Beastyqt will pick up on that, but he's probably not rushing for Banshees or early siege tanks here. It's going to be some kind of marine heavy build. And what's he getting on his racks there? We have a reactor, so he's going to be pumping out those marines, or he might switch that up. No, he is going to continue to pump out marines. He actually has 2 Raxes, so my bad. Actually not even getting a factory. Interestingly enough, I wonder what he's up to with his gas. I don't know why he's mining gas right now if he's just going to do some sort of a 2-Rax push.
Yeah, it looks like he's dropping down that tech lab right now, but the gas really isn't accumulating. He has decided to go ahead and drop that 3rd harvester on there, like you were mentioning before. Only had 2 for quite a while. That reactor just now finishing up. And if we actually check the rally point here, is this just going? Yeah, it's just going to the Zelnaga Tower, so not sending that across the map quite yet. He is actually producing a Reaper out of his tech lab barracks here for the time being, and expanding behind a little bit of 2-Rax pressure, it appears. So a little bit atypical build out of both these players thus far. Beastyqt does have his 2nd Rax just about to finish up along with that command center. His timings will be a little bit better in that regard. His economy a little bit better established. But the big question is, I guess with this bunker going down, he will have plenty of forces to go ahead and deal with the bio pressure that's going to be coming out of BratOK. He does have his Reaper just now finishing up. That'll start making its way across the map as we go along. But otherwise, all quiet on the western front here. We have a little bit of an engagement that's going to be heading here sometime soon.
I actually really like this decision from BratOK to get out this early Reaper, and he's pumping the double Marines off of the reactor racks. Not getting any upgrades just yet. Oh, actually getting combat shield on his barracks, so definitely going to be doing some pressure with these Marines here, but this bunker from Beastyqt is going to be able to repel almost any pressure, and it's going to prevent any of these Marines from getting up the ramp. BratOK does have one option for harassment if he chooses to send those 2 Reapers up the ramp, or up the ledge, either on the north or south position, but Beastyqt is all over this. He has Marines in position right now. As soon as he saw that Reaper, he put squads of Marines in position. And back at Beastyqt's base, we have a factory about to finish, but interestingly enough, BratOK actually got his expansion up and running before Beastyqt, so getting a good read on Beastyqt, and he's able to deny this natural expansion for quite some time.
Yeah, now it looks like Braddock decided to push it with a few Marines there, immediately turned around. I don't know, I think he was going to go ahead. Yeah, it looks like he was just trying to create a diversion for his Reaper, but the Reaper jumped right up, immediately got repelled by those Marines. Unfortunately, Braddock really not going to be able to do any sort of overt harassment here in the beginning of the game. But as you already mentioned, his expansion is down. The orbital command's already there. He's got a lot of SUVs over there before Beastyqt does. So that economic advantage that Beastyqt was going for that gasless 1-rax fast expand, really neutralized at this point, and he's been able to drop down a mule or two in his main, but really hasn't reaped the rewards of that economic advantage quite yet. Looks like Beastyqt just healing up that bunker for a while, but we do have a gigantic force of Marines that's about ready to start pushing out here for Braddock. He's going to start moving up. What exactly is here waiting for him? Looks like a good group of Marines, though. Oh, there is a siege tank that's going to move in. That could prove to be decisive, but the siege tank is actually joining the battle quite late. Not going to be enough. Braddock now going to move in. He's going to do a lot of damage to this orbital command. Does force it to lift off. Beastyqt is going to have to move it and maybe on fire, but he does have enough SUVs to go ahead and repair that when the time comes. But Braddock doing a very beautiful job now of denying a lot of mining time here. Does take out a supply depot as well. And does that actually supply cap Beastyqt? No, it does not, but still, nice, successful, little bit of harassment there.
Yeah, that was definitely a successful bit of harassment right there, and it was largely due to the fact that he had that early combat shield, and he just had such a superior Marine count. Able to force a lift on the natural right there, kill a couple SCVs, killed a few Marines, and stop mining time for just about a minute right there. So Beastyqt really not in an optimum situation right now. He's so far behind economically. I feel like should Braddock continue to play a straightforward game from here, he's in a great position to just run away with this game, both economically and from an army standpoint. He's already got that reactor on his starport now, going to go ahead and add some medevacs, and it looks like he's just going to stick with a purely bio composition here. And I think he could afford to add siege tanks at this point, especially now that he has his natural expansion up and he's got those gases going, but he's going to choose to invest that money in medevacs, and we'll see how that pays out for him. It's really going to come down to whether or not he can get a few drops off, or if he can float outside of Beastyqt's base and intercept him as he decides to move out of the natural.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Braddock is well ahead in terms of supply, so he does have the opportunity to use a little bit of that supply to drop down a couple of times inside of his opponent's base. And to be perfectly honest, Beastyqt is only really prepared for a frontal engagement the way he has his defensive structures up. So we'll see what he ends up doing, what sort of tech he ends up transitioning to, but it looks like he himself is just pumping out those mass Marines as well. No Marauders for either of these players. Braddock did go ahead. Ooh, looks like he is loading up that drop. Medevacs heading off to the right. We'll catch those in just a second. He did clear up space to move his next orbital command, which he is actually producing back at his natural over. So this drop even goes a little bit well. He is going to find himself in a very comfortable position. The medevacs are going to start heading up now. Here comes Braddock, and sees a couple of missile turrets and immediately turns away. So for the time being, that drop is repelled.
Beastyqt is doing a great job. He's all around his base with missile turrets. He has Marines in positions to deal with these drops. Obviously, these two players have played each other very many times. In the early game, you saw Beastyqt posting his Marines around his base in specific positions, waiting for the Reapers. Now he has missile turrets in a bunch of random locations at his main base, so obviously familiar with BratOK's style, familiar with the fact that he likes to drop a lot. And one thing Beastyqt is really going to have going for him is he's going to have a tremendous siege tank count going into the mid and late game here, but I don't know if his push window is right now. He's just finishing stim. He still does not have combat shields, and that's going to make a world of difference in their next major confrontation.
Yeah, absolutely. At the same time, we see Beastyqt moving in with his force of Marines and siege tanks. There's a relatively large group of Marines that's running around the side here for Braddock. He is actually going to stim in now and completely go through this engineering bay. That engineering bay is going to fall, but at the same time, Beastyqt is starting to siege up here outside of his natural, and Braddock, just skirting the siege line there. That could have potentially been a lot of damage done, but right now, Beastyqt is sitting here with all of his siege tanks. He is doing a lot of economic damage. There's a stim that goes down, going to completely deny this base. At the same time, it looks like the forces up at the top left for roxkisBratOK have been cleaned up, and I think that Braddock is going to try for a flank here, at least get a little bit better positioning, as he can't directly engage this force of Marines that's now tearing into the natural. Now here it comes. The rest of that flank is going to happen. A couple of these siege tanks are going to fall. The rest of the siege tanks still doing some good damage. Beastyqt has actually equalized the supply here just a little bit. He did more damage than he perhaps should have, given the fact that he was really, really far behind in the macro game. But still, BratOK does hold. He's able to maintain the next base that he constructed. He's going to float that to the gold and still press that economic advantage.
Yeah, keeping that third command center alive was huge for BratOK right there. He was able to get a solid hold, and more importantly, he reduced the siege tank count for Beastyqt. He's now down to 2 siege tanks, and BratOK is at 7 right now. He also has combat shields on his Marines. Beastyqt just finishing combat shields right now. And it looks like BratOK is going to try and push in here towards the top Xel'Naga tower, taking out 1 tank. Going to get that second tank. Second tank goes down and pulling back to his tanks right now. So huge victory for BratOK right there. And I think he might just be able to press it home within a few minutes here.
And it looks like he's gearing up to do just that. He's sieging himself where he has vision at the Xel'Naga Tower, of course, giving him a much greater range on those siege tanks. I think that, yeah, that siege tank actually is in range for Beastyqt. Oh no, and he sims in with a bunch of Marines right there, and immediately GG. So congratulations to roxkisBratOK. He does take game number 1 in this best of 5 here, going into game number 2 here very shortly, guys.
That was actually a very intelligent siege by BratOK right there. And it was also an intelligent GG from Beastyqt. I feel like, I mean, really, there was no way for him to come back from that game. So I'd probably tap out there too, especially against a player of BratOK's caliber. He's not going to let you back in from there.